life, or at least decades. And so God removes as much as the person can kind of adjust to and get back on their feet. We literally have people say, I invited them back in because I didn't know who I was or how to be. My identity was so changed after they were cast out. And so God does it as a slow healing process over time.
Is the person who is possessed aware that they're possessed? And they know something's happening to themselves?
Yeah, so it depends on the case. So if the person is in to kind of make the demons upset with them, they're not going to church, they're not praying in a Christian sense, the demons don't have a reason to really punish them or show themselves because they're winning. And if the person is promoting something the demons want, like promoting black magic or witchcraft, then they're happy with them, and they have no reason to punish them or show themselves because the person's serving them. It's usually when the person, for the first time in years, sometimes people say, well, I didn't go to Mass for 20 years, and I went with my family on Easter because they really wanted me to go. And that's the moment that they dramatically attack and, sex and bleeding in front of everybody by something invisible. And then they say, oh, I have a problem. But they may not have known. So there's that kind of person who they're laying low. And then there's another type of case where they're very aware that they're possessed. They know something is wrong, they have blank periods of time. There's other manifestations that other people report, that scare them, supernatural strength, there's voices coming out of them, languages that they don't know, a bunch of things that...
Is it 24/7 or does it come and go?
It comes and goes. So
it could be normal one day, and then the next day they're screwed up and evil.
In a sense, yes. Remember the idea that God has to allow what they do. So God tries to give the person, in a sense, a break and let them function to some extent. While they're, particularly once they're getting help on an ongoing basis, through prayer. But even before they ask for help, some are holding down jobs, some have families.
Oh my God, yeah.
But some are completely non-functional. I've seen very sad cases where the person was disabled.
Almost indefinitely?
Oh yes. I mean, unless the person's freed of this, it just wears them down and then they pass away.
When the exorcism is successful, what's the trait that you see most of the time to know that this is complete?
Well, there's a few things. One, when the last one is gone and the case is over, there's an overwhelming, bursting, jubilant joy in the person, and they have a certainty that it's over. They feel at peace inside for the first time.
Is there a glow about them?
There's a glow about them. The other thing, George, that I would say in 9 times out of 10, they report seeing Mary, the Mother of God, enter the room, approach them, and usually she simply says 2 words, it's over, and nothing more. And even people that aren't Christian, they're not baptized, they don't know the Christian world, they will say this beautiful woman came in the room, I don't know who she was, but she told me it's over, who was that? So about 9 times out of 10, Jesus sends his mother to end the case. I can't tell you exactly why that is, except he loves his mother, and she's a mediator of graces in many ways in the world. Of course, Jesus is the source of all graces, but she mediates them. So when we hear the person describing Mary, that's a clue that it's probably over. But, George, you have to be careful. And so you keep praying for a number of sessions after that to be sure nothing is still hiding in there.
Why don't we hear much about Jesus' father, Joseph, who technically wasn't really his father?
Well, because there's so little in Scripture about him. So there's no actual words that he spoke recorded in Scripture.
I mean, Mary carried the baby in her womb. Joseph didn't really have anything to do with it.
Yeah, but he had an important role in terms of protecting Mary.
And raising the child.
And raising Jesus, yes. And, for those of us that had the benefit of having a father, I hope everybody did, a father's an important figure in your life, particularly for a man.
No question.
Yeah, and so Joseph played a big role in terms of just the raising of Jesus, but also, I'm sure, you know, they were Jewish, so teaching him their religion, taking him to the temple. But as we know from Scripture, from the time he was little, of course he's God, so he was shocking and blowing away the priests at the temple with his knowledge.
That's right. Adam, we're going to take a quick break. We're at the top of the hour, but we're going to come back and chat more and take phone calls with you next.
Find out more about tonight's guests. Log on to coasttocoastam.com.
Kfi Am 640, more stimulating talk.
If you're thinking about refinancing your mortgage, maybe you've already filed, maybe you already have refinanced in 2020, it's still more than worthwhile to contact HMS Capital. Mark Tice of HMS Capital recommends you apply with HMS Capital and then any other lender. HMS Capital is the only lender I know that actually encourages homeowners to apply with other lenders. He is that confident he can get you the best deal. And I've known Mark for over 16 years, and I've done 2 mortgages with him. No appraisal or application fees of any kind. Take the HMS Capital challenge, apply with another mortgage company, and also apply with HMS Capital. The rates are the lowest they've ever been. Call 833-255-5698. That's 833-255-5698. Visit hmscapital.com. hmscapital.com.
The Delta variant is making COVID-19 spread faster and more easily. Variants can be more contagious, aggressive, and deadly. But we know vaccines work. Vaccinated Californians have greater protection against serious illness, hospitalization, and death. We can help stop the spread and end this pandemic. Get vaccinated and wear a mask when it can protect you and others. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Can you do the alphabet backwards? I'm attorney Gary Cavanosi from 1-800-NO-COPS. ZYSWVUT. Yeah, you got it. It's not easy. Now imagine the stress of getting pulled over and having to do that by the side of the road. It's enough to make anyone stumble. So if you find yourself doing the alphabet backwards, and it's not just for fun, ask to call 1-800-NO-COPS. Since no one looks good in handcuffs, unless you're into that sort of thing. 1-800-NO-COPS.
More stimulating talk. No login required.
KFI, KOST, HD2, Los Angeles, Orange County. It's time for your morning wake-up call. Here's Jennifer Jones-Lee.
So I'm curious. How many of you yelled, "Oh yeah," along with this song? Like you know it's coming now? How many of you are laying in bed and at least mouth it? I totally would. But that's me. I'm strange. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Welcome to a Tuesday, November 2nd. Here's what's just ahead on your wake-up call. American Airlines says it's working on getting back to normal operations following a weekend of canceled and delayed flights. A federal judge says Vanessa Bryant, the widow of Kobe Bryant, won't have to undergo psychiatric testing in her lawsuit over the photos of the helicopter crash that killed her husband and daughter. An open enrollment has started for the state's version of the Affordable Care Act called Covered California. All right, there are these things that have been lurking in the background for the last couple of years. They're called the flu and the common cold. And those little buggers are back. Back we'll talk with infectious disease doctor Simone Wiles about them. We've been so focused on the pandemic that I think when we do get the flu or a cold, we automatically assume it's COVID, right? Then you go get a test and you're so grateful that it's not COVID that you're like, oh, I just had the flu. Where before, it was a nightmare if you had the flu. Funny how times change. All right, we'll talk with her more about that in just a few minutes. Let's start with some of these stories coming out of the KFI 24-hour newsroom. American Airlines says it's working on getting back to normal operations following a weekend of canceled and delayed flights. Now, the airline had blamed the more than 2,200 canceled flights on weather at its hub in Texas and staffing shortages, but it says nearly 2,000 flight attendants who had been on leave are set to return to get flights back on track. Hundreds of flights out of LAX have either been canceled or delayed since Friday. I want to know why those 2,000 flight attendants were out on leave. What kind of leave were they out on? I want to dig deeper into that, and so we're going to get somebody on this week to talk more about, not just about these flight attendants on leave, because that's one question that I have, but I also want to talk to them about, we're getting into the most traffic flying portion of the year, the holidays. So you've got people flying for Thanksgiving, you've got people flying for Christmas and New Year's. Can American Airlines and all of the airlines handle the amount of traffic that's about to be on their planes? I don't know. We'll dive deeper into that this week. We'll get an expert on for you to tell us kind of what we're in for as the holidays approach. Power's been restored to all parts of LAX. The airport says electricity was knocked out to terminals about 8 last night, and some terminals had to use backup power sources. Planes were still able to come and go from the airport, but travelers had been advised to check with the airline for any delays. A man from Irvine has appeared in court charged with assaulting a flight attendant on that flight from New York to John Wayne Airport. ABC's Monaco Sarabji says the man's accused of punching the flight attendant last week on that American Airlines flight.
According to court documents, Brian Chu, who was released on $10,000 bond, said he recently had brain surgery and has psychological damage from an assault last year. He claims the flight attendant got aggressive after he bumped into her.
And that the flight attendant says the passenger was the aggressor. Federal judge says the widow of Kobe Bryant will not have to undergo psychiatric testing in her lawsuit over the photos of the helicopter crash that killed Bryant, their daughter, and 7 other people. Vanessa Bryant's invasion of privacy lawsuit claims first responders took and shared photos of the crash scene in January of last year. LA County had asked for psychiatric exams to determine if Vanessa Bryant and others could have emotional distress from photos that they hadn't actually seen. White House officials are dismissing new concerns about Senator Joe Manchin possibly blocking President Biden's spending bills. ABC's Karen Travers says House Democrats are ready to vote on both bills this week.
Manchin yesterday said that the president's overall social spending plan is a recipe for economic disaster, and that's happening as the president is here in Scotland touting the climate investments in that plan.
White House officials say they feel confident Manchin will get on board. Well, speaking of Scotland, Mayor Garcetti says a global effort by cities to fight climate change could make a big difference.
Mayor Garcetti says more than 1,000 cities and local governments around the world have pledged to reduce their emissions down to net zero by 2050 and cut their global emissions in half by 2030.
The UN says that our collective action has the potential to reduce global emissions by at least 1.4 gigatons by 2030 annually. That's like taking a country bigger than the 5th country and cutting out our emissions altogether.
The mayor made the announcement at a UN climate change conference in Scotland yesterday. Garcetti is the chair of a global group of mayors who are all working to fight climate change. Blake Trolley, KFI News.
When we come back, we will talk about our old good buddies, the cold and the flu. They're back. These are fishing buddies you don't want to return. Hi, Dave Joseph. I'm glad you're back.
Hi, Dan, and I'm glad to be here. We've got trouble in downtown LA this morning. It's on the 101 northbound at the 110 Pasadena Freeway. Look out for a crash blocking the carpool and the left lane. Things are slow now from about Broadway. Earlier crash cleared in Paramount 105. Century Freeway eastbound at Paramount Boulevard, everything out of lanes. And in Irvine, the southbound side of 405, after Irvine Center Drive, you've got a crash blocking the carpool lane. Looks like things are slow from the 133. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Dave Joseph.
506 on your wake-up call. Dr. Wild, glad you are back on Wake Up Call. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me.
Good. So when I read your story last night, the old common flu and the cold, oh, our good buddies are back, and buddies that we really didn't want to have return. My husband got the flu about 2 months ago, and he says to me, how in the world am I the guy who gets the flu in the middle of a pandemic? And I got a head cold 2 weeks ago, went and got tested for COVID, and went, oh, God, we forgot about the cold and the flu, but they are back, and man, we both got nails on this. Are the flu and the cold going to be worse this year than normal?
Well, Jen, I think that it's really hard to predict. We are using the data from the Southern Hemisphere, and they have shown a mild case. However, we're not dropping our guard because we don't know what can happen between what happened then and now. And so we really want to encourage everyone, if you have not had your flu vaccine yet, we're going to ask you after the show sometime today, go get your flu vaccine. So in the event that it's severe, you are protected against the flu, which can have devastating impact.
I happened to be at Walgreens yesterday, and there was such a line of people waiting to get their flu shot, and I was very pleased to see they were of all ages. There was a girl probably in her 20s and a woman probably in her 60s ahead of me, and they actually told me, if can you wait? And I said, actually, I can't. They said, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. They had that many people waiting to get their shots. I was heartened by it.
Well, I'm very excited to hear that. We always tell everyone 6 months and older to get a flu vaccine every year, and so this year no exception, right? And then I think that this year, even more than ever, especially because we're dealing with COVID, we want to have everyone go out and get it. And a really good point is you can get your flu vaccine and your COVID vaccine at the same time, which is something different than what we were talking about last year. So you can get 2 and done and be over with it.
Okay, so when it comes to the flu, they always do the vaccine for certain strains this year. Do we have any idea? How do they predict that? Do we know how many strains are going to be out there? Or, for people who say, oh, I get the flu when I get the flu shot, I guess I'm combining 2 questions into one. Is that the case?
So Jen, great question. What happened is scientists look at, what's happening, like in the Southern Hemisphere, they look at data, and then they try to come up with the best estimate for what they think is going to be the particular strain of flu that we're going to get this year. And so this year we have a vaccine that has 4 different flu virus strains. So whatever vaccine you get is going to be considered what's called a quadrivalent flu vaccine, which means it covers 4 different flu viruses that we potentially anticipate to be circulating this year.
Okay, and one last question before you go. All of us did so much hand sanitizing and hand washing and all of that last year. Did we make ourselves more susceptible to viruses this year now that we are out and about again? Are our bodies not trained, I guess, to fight these different viruses?
Jen, I think you cannot have enough hand hygiene in my world, right? Hand washing, hand sanitizing, that really helps not only with flu, but with just, coronavirus, and we have many other viruses that we can talk about, but hand hygiene is really important. It doesn't make you more susceptible to getting other infections. I will say that it's really important, especially in the flu and cold season and COVID season, wash your hands. And I will say wearing masks could really help because last year, very small amount of flu cases. We're hoping that this year people continue to wear their masks so it won't be as severe a season, not only for COVID, but for the flu.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Wild. We'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure.
All right. Take care. Be safe.
Thanks. You too. See you later. That is infectious disease Dr. Simone Wild from South Shore Health in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Oh, but you guys. I mean, Scott and I both got knocked on our butts with our various ailments. I was like, are we 80? What happened? Anyway, just don't forget about them. That's all I'm saying. Because they are out there, and they will knock you on your butt just like they did before COVID came around. Yeah. Well, many JPL employees could be fired over the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for federal contractors. This woman who works for the lab says she was recently given a hint of just how many of her coworkers have not been vaccinated.
There was a statement during our town hall that there were 1,000 unattested JPL employees, which means that they have not gone into the system to attest that they've been vaccinated.
Some JPL employees gathered yesterday to protest the mandate. They say JPL is one of 12 NASA centers pushing back on the mandate. The JPL workers say they must be fully vaccinated by December 8th or they could get suspended and possibly fired. Open enrollment has started for the state's version of the Affordable Care Act called Covered California. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra says 80% of people who signed up last year found coverage for less than $10 a month.
The only thing that you should be thinking about when your child needs to go to an emergency room, to a doctor, to a hospital is, am I getting the best care possible? Not can I afford to do this.
Covered California says more than 1 million people are eligible for comprehensive health insurance with 0 monthly premiums. Open enrollment started yesterday and lasts through January. A homeless camp along San Vicente Boulevard in Westwood has been cleared.
The LA County Sheriff's Department says at its peak there were 51 tents here in front of the VA campus.
You know, the host team has had a presence here since 2017.
Lieutenant Jeff Diedrich runs the department's homeless outreach services team and says they were able to move all 51 veterans, most of whom went across the fence and onto the VA campus. Doug says he was one of the first to leave yesterday morning, and he's glad.
I'm horrified that people have to live in this kind of squalor.
In Westwood, Steve Gregory, KFI News.
A judge says a man charged with providing the alcohol that killed a freshman at UC Irvine abdicated his responsibility as a strapped big brother.
The judge denied a request for diversion, which would have wiped charges for the 2019 death of Noah Domingo clean off of Xavier Brown's record.
You know, my son serving his sentence, he's no longer here. It's just horrible and disgusting how somebody doesn't want to take responsibility for what they did.
Dale Domingo says the person damaging property can get more than the 9 months Brown is facing.
If it's over $1,000, that's a felony. My son is dead because these kids provided alcohol to a minor, and it's only a misdemeanor.
Lawyers for Brown have not responded for comment. In Orange County, Corbin Carson, KFI News.
Jurors have been chosen in Wisconsin for an 18-year-old accused of killing 2 people and hurting another during a protest last year. Lawyers for Kyle Rittenhouse say he traveled from Illinois to Wisconsin during the protest and shot the people in self-defense. Kenosha Circuit County Judge Bruce Schroeder has told the jury to avoid any news coverage related to the case.
In the event that you land on something that you didn't hear anything to do with this case, just switch right away to Disney Plus or some other site.
Say Disney Plus. Switch over to The Mandalorian as soon as possible. The trial is set to start today. I mean, good advice, but it's funny that was his graph. That's great. The attorney for the assistant director of the movie Rust is disputing claims about who gave the prop gun to Alec Baldwin that he accidentally shot 2 people on set. The attorney for David Halls and Lisa Tarraco, her name is Lisa Tarraco, tells Fox News that the armorer handed it to Baldwin.
In the affidavit, it states that my client grabbed the gun off of a prop cart and handed it to Baldwin. That absolutely did not happen.
Ooh, now there's a discrepancy. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins was killed and director Joel Souza was hurt when Baldwin fired the gun. Civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson has been taken to a hospital in Washington, D.C. after falling and hitting his head. Apparently he was helping a student at a housing protest in the historically black Howard University when he fell down. Now, the hospital did a CT scan. Apparently that came back normal, but Jackson was kept in the hospital overnight for observation. And if I remember right, I think he and his wife both had COVID recently. And so this has been a tough time for Jesse Jackson. All right, when we come back, we will talk with ABC's Aaron Kaprski. The Labor Department has confirmed its details on vaccine mandates in the coming months. So what does that mean for you? And also the CDC will convene today to talk about going ahead and giving the thumbs up on that vaccine for kids. How is all of that going to happen? And from what are they going to base their decision? That's all straight ahead. Right now, David's back to that crash on the 101.
Downtown on the northbound side of the 101 at the 110 Pasadena Freeway, you still have that crash that's blocking the carpool and two left lanes. Traffic stop and go from about Broadway. Headed to Irvine, trouble on the 405 southbound after Irvine Center Drive. A crash blocks the carpool lanes. Things are slow here from the 133. And making your way through Glen Helen, 15 northbound after Glen Helen Parkway. Look out for an injury crash in the center divider and also off to the right shoulder. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Dave Joseph.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo. Your life, your hope, and whatever you were searching for at 1:15 a.m., it's really none of our business, and it shouldn't be anyone else's. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
This is Chris Collinsworth. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network, presented by DraftKings.
Von Miller is heading to L.A. The Rams made a blockbuster trade, sending a second and third round pick to the Broncos for the 8-time Pro Bowler. The Chiefs survived the Giants on Monday Night Football. Kansas City hit the game-winning field goal in the final match to improve to 500. And Russell Westbrook said he's free-balled mid-game because he's bringing energy to the Lakers. Westbrook danced a cross-half court in Friday's win over the Cavs. I'm Jordan.
Download the DraftKings app and use code SPORTS to get a free shot and millions of dollars up for grabs this week with your first deposit.
Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Rates subject to change without notice. Minimum loan amount requirements apply. 60% loan to value and 625 credit score. Certain restrictions apply. Subject to credit approval. NMLS 3290. Loans made or arranged pursuant to California Financial Lenders Law License number 6036970. Equal housing lender.
Wake up! Have you seen these great home loan rates being advertised? But you've thought to yourself, I'll never qualify. Well, you clearly haven't called IntelliLoan. Right now, IntelliLoan is offering a 1.99% APR with no points or lender fees. This is even if your credit score is 620. So no more excuses. Even if you've got okay credit, you're self-employed, whatever it is, IntelliLoan can help you get that great home loan. So call IntelliLoan today and ask about a 1.99% APR with no points or lender fees, even if your credit score is 620. Call them at 1-800-918-6200. That's 1-800-918-6200. Or just go to IntelliLoan.com.
IntelliLoan. Better, smart.
Some people hate daylight savings time, but for me, that just means more good times at Morongo. And now, the top 5 reasons to visit Morongo. Number 5.
Thanksgiving Essentials giveaway. Get a Houston buffet server when you earn 500 points on your reward card. The 8th and 9th.
Number 4.
Robin Gift live November 13th. Only a few seats left. Get yours now.
3.
Turkey Bowl giveaway. You can win up to $2,000 cash playing your favorite game. Friday, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m.
And the number 2.
Thanksgiving to go. Get a full week with 6 stars for one low price. Call 866-234-7056 to order today.
And the number 1 reason.
Veterans Day freebie. Veterans get a free gift and enjoy 50% off dining with valid military ID on Veterans Day.
Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo. Good time.
I really report never seems to fit. That's because there's more to language than language. Babble is different. Babble's medical